You know that feeling when you're surrounded by people all day, like kids or coworkers and your spouse, but you still feel lonely? I've been there and I know how hard it can be to keep adult relationships alive when parenting takes up so much of your energy. In this episode, we're talking about how to reconnect with your spouse and deepen friendships, as well as find fulfillment in your relationships, even when it feels overwhelming. Hey, parents, welcome to Fulfillment Therapy. Do you want to raise your kids better and have a stronger marriage? Are you up late at night researching marriage and parenting tools and self care tips? Do you start each day hoping for deeper connections and less chaos, but it ends with family arguments and going 12 different directions again? My name's Kendra, wife, mom, therapist, and growth enthusiast. It wasn't until I discovered how to fulfill my unmet needs that I was finally able to show up as my best self as a spouse and parent. I realized that by meeting my needs, I could more fully meet the needs of my family with more energy and less resentment. In this podcast, I teach parents skills like boundary setting, prioritizing personal needs, communication, and claiming ownership. Just like my clients, you'll be shocked by the improvement in your marriage, parenting, and personal life when you focus on fulfilling your important unmet needs. Ready to prioritize yourself so you can quit mentally throat punching people? Then grab those earbuds and head outside, and let's walk and talk. Welcome back, my friends, to episode number 189, Nurturing Relationships as an Adult, Finding Connection as a Busy but Lonely Parent. This is Fulfillment Therapy, and this is your guide to mental wellness and life satisfaction for overwhelmed parents. I'm your host, Kendra Nielsen, and today's topic is nurturing relationships as an adult while juggling those parental responsibilities and making it all happen. We all need a little help. Before we dive in, I want to remind you to check out our new courses. Go to fulfillmenttherapy.org. We have a course for starting your online business if you want some passive income that is flexible for your family. You can check that out. It's called Find Your Focus. That's the first one. The next one is Launch Your Podcast, and that will be coming in late spring or early summer. And then we also have 3 wellness courses. So we have Ignite Your Life, that's a personal growth course. We also have Mend Your Marriage, which is a course to take your marriage to the next level. We have Heal Your Home, a parenting course, and that is also coming in late spring or early fall of 2025. So check those out. Now back to the topic for today. I want to start first and foremost with a story. I have a client recently that's talked about losing her best friend just to life situations, changing beliefs and who they are, essentially. That has been very challenging for her. She's felt very alone and surprised at how challenging it has been. She has a loving husband. She loves her kids. All these great things are going for her, but there's this grief tied to losing somebody so close. I was remembering my own story. I have lost several really close friends, deeply connected friendships, and that still is painful for me. And I know I'm not the only one. I know many of you are like my clients, like you feel that keen loneliness, but you're not sure what to do about it. You're not in elementary school anymore. You don't feel like you can run out on the playground and say, "Will you be my friend?" And it's as easy as that. Feels like it takes a lot more finessing, which feels beyond you when you hardly have the bandwidth to do the dishes or make dinner. And I don't blame you. I feel that too. So let's talk about how we can do that in realistic ways. Relationships contribute to our greatest joys and our biggest struggles. It's not just in our parenting or in our marriage, but in our friendships as well. And I really want to focus on those friendships because we need those to rejuvenate. Think about the last time you went out with friends you felt close to. Maybe it's been a long time, but when you did, reflect on that time. How did you feel when you came home? Did you feel lighter? Were you smiling more? Was it easier to see the good in your family members? Chances are very high that the answer is yes. Even if you experience some anxieties or different things like that, With the right people, it feels rejuvenating and our souls crave that connection. These friendships as adults provide that emotional support and reduce that stress, and they improve our overall well being and fulfillment. The definition of those relationships includes not only those romantic partnerships, but those friendships and those family connections beyond parenting roles. I love this quote by Shannon Thomas. She says, "A healthy relationship is a feast of affection and giving for both people, not one receiving crumbs and trying to convince themselves it's enough." Now, how many times, my friends, do you feel like you are just getting crumbs or it is so one sided? Maybe it's time for you to invest in different relationships. Now, there might be times when some close friend that you really love and admire needs more attention, and that's okay. We go through different phases. But if you're starting to see that it's a trend where it's very one sided and it's not refueling for both of you, it's not a give and take, that's not really a nurturing relationship and it's not necessarily a healthy relationship. So consider letting some of those go if that's you. Let's talk about some of the challenges in maintaining those relationships. The obvious ones are time constraints and fatigue that make those meaningful conversations really challenging. As we're older, those shifting priorities and responsibilities can lead to neglected friendships. I know I've done it many times for people I care about, and time flies and it gets away from you. Over time, you're not making those relationships priorities. And then there's also that risk of losing your individual identity in your roles, especially as a parent and spouse. It can be difficult to have much to add to those friendships or feel embarrassed by how little you have to offer in conversation or individuality when all you're really thinking about is your to-dos as a wife, as a husband, as a parent, whatever those things are. How can we prioritize those meaningful connections? My friends, it's so important to focus on quality over quantity because let's be honest, none of us can do a lot of quantity right now. So, how can we be proactive in maintaining those friendships? I know for me in my planner, I often just write tiny little things that I break up throughout the week. Send Emily a text or send a funny voice message just so we do a phone check in. Often it's those kinds of things. And then there's other little things like, okay, plan one time a week or twice this month, I hang out with different friend groups. And I have to put those in my planner, otherwise, they don't happen. Another thing that you can do is create those environments where you know they're going to be more meaningful. For example, you may not want to go shopping with somebody because you're really not going to get very connected interaction during something like that. But if you schedule a book club or something more meaningful where you have more time to really talk about feelings and thoughts and deeper things, that can be more bonding. Another thing that clients do is they don't put boundaries on the relationships, so they feel more depleting because they feel like they have to give more than they really do. For example, a lot of clients feel really overburdened. So we talk about how we can break that down and make it realistic for both people because often both sides are feeling this way. It could be as simple as, hey, I have 30 minutes to go on a walk. Do you want to come with me? Or I have 10 minutes. Do you want to do a quick Zoom call? Or it could be, hey, let's keep connected on Marco Polo or something like that because it's really busy, but I miss talking to you. It can be something small like that. And when you're doing these things, do a self check. How often is it small talk and how often is it vulnerable and open and real and genuine? Are you sharing your genuine thoughts and feelings to deepen those connections? Or are you just venting about your spouse or your parenting and not really connecting in a deeper, more impactful way? Priya Parker said this: "We need meaningful friendships and connections in our lives, and it's hard, not just because we're busy, but because it hasn't been modeled for us in our society in a way that makes us trust our ability to do it." Don't you feel like that is true? Society has not modeled how we can have those meaningful friendships and connections. So we're floundering a little bit and we feel that keen sense of loneliness now that we're out of elementary school or those structured environments where it's very simple. It feels harder to nurture something like that as an adult. And again, going back to that example, you could start a book club or you could ask to join one, or you could look on things like Meetup for ways to connect with people in ways that you love. I know there's a lot of hiking groups in my area. There's so many things that you could do, but it does require leaning in a little bit in ways that you might feel a little uncomfortable initially. It can connect your love of one thing with friendship, and that will deepen that connection in a faster way. I want to mostly focus on relationships with friends in this episode, but I do want to highlight nurturing those family relationships as well. I want to share a story quickly about a client that wanted to rekindle a relationship with her family. She felt like she was getting stuck as she held these long lasting judgments that prevented her from connecting deeper with them. So we processed that a little bit, and she decided that she would repeat this mantra in her mind over and over: love them where they're at. And she kept doing that. And as she kept telling herself that and just showing up and trying to be present and not thinking so much about the past or the future, she just was in that moment with them and celebrated that time together instead of future tripping or focusing too much on things that have been done. She's found greater connection in her ability to do that. So if you want to nurture relationships that are not just friendships, that is one simple thing that you can do. That mantra: love them where they're at. And others will love us more where we're at as we're able to do that for others. Now, what are some common obstacles to connecting on a deeper level as adults? Time management. Remember how I talked about quality over quantity? That can just be a very simple weekly text. You can let go of that guilt and recognize that nurturing relationships really does benefit the entire family. Often in the beginning, I was like, oh, I can't justify that. My husband's too tired to watch the young kids. I just feel bad leaving. But then every time I leaned in and challenged that thought a little bit and I went ahead and went, I came back so rejuvenated, and he felt so much better that he was more than willing to support something where I could feel happier and more energized, and that would rub off into all of my relationships. And keep that in mind as you support your spouse doing the same thing. Another thing to be aware of is digital distraction. We use our devices so often. We don't realize how much wasted personal and present time there is. Don't be that distracted friend, because nobody likes to feel like they are second best. That means your watch, your phone, anything. Try not to get so distracted that you're not really present when you're actually together with a friend, with a family member, whoever that is. John Mark Green said, as you remove toxic people from your life, you free up space and emotional energy for positive, healthy relationships. My friends, do you have those toxic people in your life? This is not about fault finding or seeing the negative in everybody, but maybe you could have more meaningful relationships if you free up some of that space for healthier relationships. I've had to do that a lot in the last few years, and that can be hard. It's like ripping off really big band-aids sometimes. I don't want to minimize how challenging that can be. But maybe somebody comes to mind where it just continues to be more taking and not a lot of mutual give and take. If that is a relationship in your life that leaves you feeling depleted, you can let go of it. Now, it's not easy, but remember, you are modeling relationships for your family members. So your little people in your home are watching. Do they see you over giving to a friend to your detriment and to your family's detriment? Do they see you having those weak boundaries? Do they see you unable to be yourself and be genuine and to have both those good days and those bad days and still be loved and accepted by your friends? And if not, maybe it's time to make new friends. When parents are able to maintain those strong friendships, they demonstrate to their kids the value of those lifelong connections. So many of my clients share that they never saw their parents go out with friends or nurture those healthy connections. And I wonder what you are nurturing for your children. Are you showing them what a healthy relationship looks like, what a healthy friendship looks like? My friends, we are showing our kids by our example. This is simply, what are you doing to nurture your friendships? And if you don't have them, how are you leaning in to create new friendships? Now, I just want to briefly end with that final story of my own. I have personally felt lonely a lot. My closest friends are very busy, and many of them are leaders, and I love them for this. There's a reason that I'm drawn to them, because they are such amazing people. But as all of our kids get older, it becomes more challenging to get together with them. As my kids get older, they're also less interested in hanging out. Not that long ago, all I wanted was extra free time. They kept coming in, asking me questions, constantly wanting my attention. I can see how that's tapering off. Now, when I ask them to hang out, they're not as keen. They want to hang out with their friends or do their activities. And all of a sudden, I'm having more downtime. And I'm craving that deeper connection, but in just these short bursts throughout the day. And that's hard to fill instead of when you're single and you had hours of time to devote to certain things. I don't have those hours of time, but I am craving that deeper connection here and there throughout the week. And if that's something that you want, I want you to explore how you could make deposits into friendships and also acquire more of them in small amounts of time. That means going out of your comfort zone to deepen those connections and start new ones in simple ways. Look into those meetup groups and ask people questions. I've thought about these two girls in my spinning class. They seem like so much fun. I'm pretty outgoing, but I don't know them very well and they're very close. I was like, how do I just say, do you want to hang out? I find myself being a little shy in certain situations when other people know each other really well. But I try to lean into that and just say, I can let go of the narrative I'm telling myself. They already have enough friends. They're too busy. They wouldn't want to hang out with me. Recognize I can't read their minds, and all I can do is lean in. So I can just try in those small ways. I am doing that, not quite yet with my cycling friends, but I will report back in the future. But what is it that you can do? That tiny step in that direction of nurturing relationships and creating new friendships. And remember, my friends, you will get turned down. Probably like 7 out of 10 times I am turned down. And it's not because they're mean or unkind, but they have their own things going on. Or maybe they're just anxious, or maybe I'm not for them, and that's totally fine. I try to not take it personally or run wild in these narratives of what that means, but just to accept that's just going to be the statistic probably throughout my life. I know it is for most people. And others just assume that everybody says yes to them because they're a nice person or whatever. But really, it's just accepting that mostly you're going to get no's, and that's okay. Remember, my friends, we all feel lonely. Maybe not all the time, but sometimes. And we crave that deeper connection. Now you might be telling yourself, no, I don't. I'm too busy to crave anything more. I don't have the time or the bandwidth to offer friendships right now. I encourage you to challenge that belief because there are simple ways that we can deepen those relationships and nurture them in just minutes a week. Don't give up because it really is what will take your fulfillment to the next level. So, in summary, I want to remind you of 4 things. Prioritize quality time over quantity time and put it in your planner. Those tiny little things that will help you create deeper relationships. That could be a text, a video interaction, scheduling out those meaningful things that you want more of, like book club, getaways with a friend, or a monthly dinner. The second one is embrace vulnerability. Do not be afraid to share your genuine thoughts and feelings. This is when you deepen that connection and it feels so good. I love that part in book club, how people can be themselves. And that's what makes them rich, our differences. The third one is balance. Balance is key. Nurturing those relationships is not selfish, even though we feel guilty often leaving our home and our spouse and our kids to fend for themselves. But that models for our kids healthy social behavior. Strive for a balance in all of your roles, whether it's as a parent, spouse, friend, or individual. And then last but not least, be proactive. Maintain relationships as an adult, especially as a parent. It requires effort, but not as much as we think it will. Take that initiative to schedule catch-ups, to share your appreciation, or to create those little family rituals or friend rituals, or to foster those new connections. And why is this important? Why does it even matter? It matters because when we invest in relationships, this contributes to our personal fulfillment and family well-being. There is no shortcut. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll be able to admit that you feel lonely too, and that there's a little more that you can do to lean in, to deepen your connections with friends, or to create new friendships and let go of some of those that are not serving you. Best of luck, my friends. Don't forget to check out our blog on fulfillmenttherapy.org/blog. We turn all of these podcast episodes into blog posts. So check those out on our website. And please review this podcast because that allows us to increase our reach. If you haven't done so already, just go to the show, scroll to the bottom, and click on that purple link that says leave a review. It'll only take 30 seconds. Thank you again, my friends. Take care. And as always, I'll see you back here in a few days. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, chances are someone else would too. Would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who's looking for greater family fulfillment? And while you're sharing, tell me what you think about the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It refuels me when I hear this podcast is helping you. No matter what your house or your hair looks like, I'll meet you back here every Monday and Thursday morning for more episodes. Until then.